ለመማር ወደ ትምህርት ተቋም መሄድ ግድ አይደለም።
ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ
ራሳችሁን ከኮሮና ቫይረስ ወረርሽኝ እየጠበቃችሁ በቤታችሁ ወይም በተመቻችሁ ቦታ
በኢንተርኔት አማካኝነት በኦንላይን ትምህርታችሁን መከታተል ይቻላል።
ካናዳ ከሚገኘው ኢንተርናሽናል ኤር ትራንስፖርት አሶሲዬሽን አያታና
ከእንግሊዙ ኢንስቲትዩት ኦፍ ኮመርሻል ማኔጅመንት ICM ጋር በመተባበር የሚሰጡ ትምህርቶችን ተከታትላችሁ በ6 ወር ጊዜ በዓለም አቀፍ ደረጃ ተቀባይነት ያለውን የስልጠና ማስረጃ ባለቤት መሆን ይቻላል።
ከኢትዮጵያ ሲቪል አቪዬሽን ባለስልጣን ሙሉ ዕውቅና ባገኘንባቸው የፍላይት ኦፕሬሽን እና የሆስተስ ስልጠናም በምዝገባ ላይ ነን።
ጥያቄና መልስ፣ የክፍል ስራዎች ብሎም ፈተና መፈተን ክፍል ውስጥ እንዳላችሁ አይነት
ልምድ ባላቸው መምህራን እየተማራችሁ
በኦንላይን ባላችሁበት ቦታ።
አድራሻ ከ22 ማዞሪያ ወደ ሾላ ገበያ በሚወስደው መንገድ 150 ሜትር ገባ ብሎ ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ
የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ
ህልሞን እውን ያደርጋል።
we can determine the variable cost per unit, because you recall in our equation it is F plus V times X. So V is the variable cost per unit. So given this information, we can always determine the variable cost per unit. How do you determine the variable cost per unit? You just take the $260 divided by the number of units that were produced. So the number of units that were produced were 5,000. So if you take 260,000, you divide by 5,000, okay, you're going to get $52. You will get $52. So $52 is now our V, stands for V, because that is the cost per unit, $52. And then our fixed cost, from the table above, you can see our fixed costs are $30. So $30 will stand for F. That stands for F. So we have F being $30. So with that, we can always formulate our equation and to as y is equals to 30 plus 52x. 30 plus $30,000 plus 52x, and you can see that equation given there. Now, if you can also test this, if you do this way, you will always get your answer being $290,000 as given here, our total cost being $290,000. So if you apply this, you'll still get the $290,000. So assuming our cost changes, instead of 5,000, we produce 6,000 units. So what would be our total cost? So you just substitute 6,000 for X in this equation, so that you'll be, instead of multiplying 52,000 times 5,000 to get the 290, then you're going to multiply 52,000 times 6,000, sorry, $52 times 6,000 units to get plus the 30,000 fixed cost. You can always get total cost, which is different from the 290. So we can use this equation to project what we intend to get in future, supposing we want to produce more units, or we want to produce lesser units. Then the number of units you anticipate to produce, then you just multiply by the V plus F. You can always get now what is expected to be spent as total cost on production of that particular product. So that is essentially about the accounts analysis. And you realize now this information is gathered from the past history, what we have already spent. So we can use that to project what we need to spend in future. And this is very important. So from the equation that we have, we can always use the same equation to formulate to project what we need to have to attain in future. So this is very important and is commonly used in many organizations. It has its own advantages and disadvantages. I can see it's very easy to come up with, as long as you have the costs that you've already incurred in the past. You can use the same to come up with the cost function, and then now based on that you can formulate the future anticipated costs. Okay, now before we move to the next one, I want us to just get feedback so that we can get an okay to proceed. Okay, so any question, any that needs clarification? Okay, are we together about the accounts analysis method? If you have a question, just raise your hand. I will unmute you. Yes, Gutu?
Yes.
Yes, yes. Gutu Zalalem? Can you? Yes, yes.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, yes. Go ahead.
It says on the slides you are sharing, the units that's produced and sold when you find the number of units. But
So,
in the real world, there are units that didn't sold but are in stock, or they might get expired, or we might get not sell them. So how can we put in the cost analysis when we do them?
okay. Now, at this level, we are just concerned about the costing, not the sales. Sales, that's another issue altogether. Because, of course, what you produce, you also look at what the sales behavior. Because you don't want to produce too much that you will have more of it in the store instead of selling. So we match our production level with the demand, isn't it? So demand is actually the sales that we make. So the measure of demand is the sales that we make. So if you can see that the demand is increasing, and then you need to step up your production level to meet the demand. So it's a question of the cost. We are trying to come up with the cost for now, all right? So that and not the revenue or the sales that we make. So though the units that we need to produce is dependent on the demand, and demand is now the sales that we are making. So some products are seasonal. You know, you find that times when the peak is so high, the demand is so high, and there are times when the demand is so low. So what do you anticipate to spend in terms of the cost of the production? And that's why we are doing this function. We are doing this, coming up with this function that you can vary the production levels depending on the demand. So right now we are just focusing on the cost, but not the sales. Though the whatever we need to produce is dictated by the demand that is in the market. Am I clear? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Any other question? Just raise your hand if you have a comment or a question. Okay. So we can proceed, right?
Yes.
Now, yeah. Silasi, you're talking?
No, doctor.
Okay, fine. Let's continue. Then we'll come back after we've seen the next. Are you able to see the screen?
No, we can't.
You are not seeing? Okay.
Yeah, we can't.
Just give it a minute.
Now we can see it, doctor.
You can see now?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So let's continue. We move to the next method, which is high-low method. High-low method. Now, the high-low method uses historical information from several report periods to estimate costs. The same concept like we have seen above is in the first case. We still apply here because you need to get data for several productions, and then you use that information to formulate, to come up with a function that can help us predict the levels as they change. So there are steps that we need to follow when applying this method. We have step 1, identify the high and low activity levels from the data set. So we need to identify out of the data set that you've collected, you need to identify the high and the low activity levels, not the cost, activity levels. That means the units. You check on the units. How many units have been produced at highest level possible, and how many units have been produced at the lowest level possible within the given period under consideration. Then step 2, calculate the variable cost per unit, which is V, by calculating the slope of the line using the high and low points identified in step 1. So now this is the slope. The slope, you need to determine the slope or the gradient, or so you just take the difference between the y and the difference between the x to get your v. And then lastly, step 3, calculate the total fixed cost by substituting the value for x. So you already know the units that are produced at the level of, you can use the high or low level, so that you picked in the step 1, and then now you use that to substitute and get your f. So once you get your f, you can always now formulate the equation. So you state the result of the equation as y is equals to f plus vx. Now this is very simple, but we need to use the illustration so that you can get it so clearly. Now, looking at the illustration, we have figures there, and we need to apply step 1. Out of the activities that we have, the first column is giving us the period or the months of production. Then the second column is giving us the total production cost, that was incurred for that particular month. And then the third column is giving us the level of activity in terms of units that are produced during every month. So you can see that. But now what we are interested in is the last column, which is giving us the level of activities, the units that have been produced over the whole year. So you check and select the highest level of activity and the lowest level of activity. Now, looking at that column, we can see the highest level of activity is on which month? We can see the highest level of activity occurred in the month of April. And we had the 5,900 units with a total cost of $380,000. And then the lowest activity occurred in the month of January, where we had 2,900 units at a total cost of $200,000 as a production cost. So this is, if you check in your column there, you can see those figures. April is somewhere here. The 5,900 is here. And then the total cost, corresponding cost, is 380. Then the lowest, we are told, is in January. January is somewhere here. So 2,900 units, and then the total cost being 200. So once you have identified that, then you can formulate your equation. You get the slope, all right? You get the slope of the two. So you will have like the difference between 5,900 units and 2,900 units. The difference is what? If you are to calculate that, you'll find your difference is 5,900 minus 2,900. Your difference is 3,000 units. 3,000 units is the difference. And then you also check with the cost, the total cost. The highest cost was, is 380,000. You less 200,000. You get 180,000. 180,000. So having done that, you can always now determine our variable cost per unit. Variable cost per unit. Now that's being the slope now, or the gradient. So you will take 180,000, you divide by 3,000 units, being the difference of the units that we produced between the high and the low. So when you do that, you will get your variable cost per unit being $60. It's $60. So the $60 is our V, okay? So now to get F,
በትምህርት ከፍ ብሎ መብረር ይቻላል። ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ከከፍተኛ ትምህርት አግባብነትና ጥራት ኤጀንሲ ሙሉ ዕውቅናን ባገኘንባቸው በማስተርስ ዲግሪ ኤምቢኤ በስትራቴጂክ ማኔጅመንት፣ ኤምቢኤ በባንኪንግ እና ፋይናንስ፣ ኤምቢኤ በቢዝነስ ሊደርሺፕ፣ ኤምቢኤ በሪስክና ኢንሹራንስ፣ ኤምኤስሲ በኢንተርናሽናል ትሬድ እና ኢኮኖሚክስ ዘርፎች በእውቀት ለመቅረጽ የበቁ ፕሮፌሰሮቻችን አረንጓዴ መብራታቸውን አብርተዋል። በነገራችን ላይ በኬንያ ሀገር ከሚገኙ ስመጥር ዩኒቨርሲቲዎች በሚመጡ ፕሮፌሰሮች የትኩረት መስክ ትምህርቶቹ መሰጠታቸው ልዩ ያደርገናል። በምርጥ የትምህርት ስርዓት የተገነባው ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ በመጀመሪያ ዲግሪ በአቪዬሽን ማኔጅመንት፣ በሆቴል ማኔጅመንት፣ በአካውንቲንግና ፋይናንስ፣ በማርኬቲንግ ማኔጅመንት አስተማማኝ ትምህርት ይገቢውና ራስዎንና ሀገሮን ይለውጡ። አድራሻ 22 አደባባይ ወደ ሾላ በሚወስደው መንገድ ላይ ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ህልሞን እውን ያደርጉ።
Hello, sorry for that interference. You can hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, doctor.
Okay. So I was explaining the $60 as our variable cost per unit. Now, given the two, we can use the high or low to substitute and get our F. So let's use the low level of activity where we had 2,900 units at 200,000. So if we substitute, now our equation is y is equals to F plus Vx. So, yes.
Yeah. Can I comment on the 26,000?
Can you repeat the question? Yes.
Yeah. Can I comment on how the 26,000 came?
The 6,000.
The 26.
Oh, the 26. Yes, yes. Yes.
It's simply by taking either the low or the high total production and the unit of produce. We just simply substitute them on the Y and on the X, and we can simply calculate the F, and it comes 26,000. If we take like 2,000, if we take 2,900 to be X and 200,000 to be Y, and the F will be 26,000.
Yes.
So we get it from there by simply inserting the numbers.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right. In fact, that's what I was explaining. Then I got disconnected. That's what I was explaining.
I know. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. You're right. You're right by doing that. You can also substitute either with the high or the low level. Yes, you still get the same.
Thank you.
So you can use this now to formulate your equation. Y, then Y will be equals to F now is, we've gotten is 26,000. So Y is equals to 26,000 plus 60X, isn't it? So 60X is now, 60 is our variable cost and X is the level of output. So you can change the X whichever way you want to determine your Y. And that is our equation that you are seeking for by applying this method. So the high-low method is simply applied in that way so that you can formulate your cost equation. And this can be used to predict our future output or to estimate our total cost, our future total cost in case we are varying the level of output. So this is about high and low. Now, as a method, you can also look at advantages of the method and disadvantages of the method because now the fact that it's just looking at the high and low, how about these other activities? Because that is now the limit. Actually, that was about the high-low approach. And as I said, as a method, every method had its own benefits and limitations. So you can read about that to just understand how important some method is over the other one. Before I move to the next approach, or method, which is scatter graph analysis, any questions? Anybody with a question before we move to the next method?
Hello, sir.
Yes, Selassie.
Did you make clear the 26,000, how the fixed cost is arrived?
Yeah.
I couldn't hear.
So okay, how the 26,000 now? Do you what? Okay, I'm still on you. Huh? Can I answer your question right away, Selassie?
No, I don't have the other question.
No, yeah. You're asking how the 26 came about.
Yes.
Yes, and I'm telling you, look at what is your high level of activity?
It was about 300,000 total cost of the product.
No, okay. What was your high level of activity? How many units were high? Were low, sorry. How many units were low? How many units were low?
5,900.
2,900.
2,900.
2,900, right? And how many, at what cost? Total cost was
200,000. 200,000.
200,000, isn't it? You have the general equation, which is y is equals to f plus vx.
Yeah.
So substitute y is equals to 200.
Okay.
And f is unknown, is the one you're looking for.
Yes.
Plus v we found is 60. You know how we got the 60?
Yes, 60 times 200,000, 2,900.
Exactly. So when you substitute that, you will get
174,000.
Yes. So what is f? F is equals to
100,000 minus 174,000.
precisely. What do you get?
Good.
You get 26. Okay.
Good.
Thank you. Any other question?
Hello, doctor.
Yes.
Doctor.
Yes. Yeah.
I am Zalalam, yeah.
Zola, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. When you calculate V, I think you select the maximum and the minimum amount, I think, from the list. So I think my question is that can you calculate the V? I think V is a slope, a variable cost.
Yes.
As you said.
Yes.
So can you calculate the slope? I think it is a linear question. So can you calculate all any amount of V? Can you get the same V when you choose 2 points? Because when you want to calculate the slope, there is a change in Y over a change in X. I think this is the general formula to get a slope.
Yeah. Yes.
So I think in this approach, shall we choose only the minimum and the maximum amount, or any listed amounts that you display?
So in this approach, we take only the least and the highest. That's why it's called high-low approach. And it's assumed that how do you get an average? Average for like total units produced. You take, okay, you can take the total of everything divided by the number of months, isn't it? But this approach is, okay, the assumption is that represents actually the average, the
Yes.
average of production that has taken place over the year. So essentially that's why the method is called high-low. So you only look at the high and the low.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So we have to choose only the minimum and the maximum amount.
Yes.
For this approach. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Yes. Any other question? Yes. Any other question? So can we move to the next method?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, good. Thank you. So let's look at the scatter graph approach. The scatter graph approach. Now, the scatter graph method considers all data points, not just the higher and the lowest levels of activity. Again, the goal is to develop an estimate of fixed and variable costs stated in the equation form as y is equals to v to f plus vx. So there are steps here as well, just like the one you have seen above. You plot the data points for each period on a graph. Then step 2, visually fit a line. Visually fit a line. So am I clear now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I was explaining the step 2. You visually fit a line to the data points and be sure the line touches one data point. Okay, so here you just look at where the concentration is. So you just put a line that at least passes at one of the data points, and the line extends up to the y-axis. It crosses the y-axis. The reason why it has to go to cross the y-axis is, you know, now y is the production, the total cost of production. So, and the x is the number of units produced. So once it crosses y, it means there's nothing that is being produced, all right? So it means variable cost is not being incurred. So variable cost is only incurred when you produce. But when you don't produce, at unit is equals to 0, then there's no production, then the cost that we get there is the fixed cost. Then number 3, estimate the total fixed cost from the line that you visually fit, and then calculate the variable cost per unit based on what you found as F. Then state the results in the equation form, y is equals to F plus Vx. So we, using the same illustration, like this one we have on high-low, you can see that we plot all this. So the level, this will be the x-axis, and this will be now the y-axis, which is the total cost, which will be the y-axis, and x-axis will be the level of activity. So you plot all these data points, you plot them on the graph. And I think I shared the graph. You saw the graph where all data points have been plotted. Then you join a line, cutting across until it touches the y-axis. So at that point, it means the production level is 0 when it touches y-axis. So you notice that the line hits the data point for July. At July, we had 3,500 units produced, and the total cost of 230,000 being the total cost incurred to produce those units. Then the total fixed costs are simply the point at which the line drawn in step 2 meets the y-axis. The line drawn in step 2 meets the y-axis. So which means at this point, the production level is 0. So, but there's a cost we have incurred. So that means a cost that is fixed is the one that we have incurred, because we pay for it whether we are producing or not. So that's why it's referred to as a fixed cost. It does not depend on the level of production. So once we get that, it represents our F in the equation. So this is often called the y-intercept. The y-intercept is actually now our point of fixed cost. Now the line meets the y-axis when the activity level units produced in this example is 0. So since variable costs are 0 when no units are produced, the cost reflected on the graph at the y-intercept must represent the total fixed cost of approximately 45,000. So you can see where the line cuts the y-axis. So if you read from the y-axis, you can see a cost of around 45,000. So it's an approximation, unless you are using every, you know. So you can read, it's about there. It's about 45,000. Then our estimated variable cost per unit, V, is calculated by substituting F with 45,000. So if your F is 45,000, okay, so F is equals to 45,000. And now our Y from the data point that we read, our Y is equals to 230,000. And our X is equals to 3,500. What is V? Okay. And our equation is y is equals to f plus Vx. So it is 2,000, it's 230,000 is equals to 45,000. All right, plus V, which we don't know, times 3,500. So to do this, you take 230,000, you subtract less 45,000, you subtract 45,000 is equals to 3,500 V. Okay, so when you subtract 230,000 minus 45,000, you get 185,000. 185,000 is equals to 3,500 V. So what is V? V is equals to 185,000 divided by 3,500, which will give us 3,500, which will give us 52.8. We can round it off to 6. $52.86. That is our V, our cost per unit. So once you find that, you just substitute in your equation, and there you have your cost estimation equation as y is equals to 45,000 plus 52.86 times x. That is about the scatter graph. This one takes into consideration all the activities, the level of activities that we have incurred or we are considering for the period. Unlike the other one, which had no, which was only considering the high and low levels of activity. Any question before we proceed to the next one?
I couldn't understand how y is 45,000 we get.
Okay.
Because y is equal to 45,000 plus 52.86 x. The place of 45,000 is f place. So to replace in the f 45,000 we have to get, or the y value becomes when x is the number, or the highest or the lowest number. After that, we have to get the y value. But how, as this question, how we have to get y is 45,000. But the value of x is 0, y become 45,000, that is interception becomes 0. The x-axis or the y-interception in the axis is 0. Without that, the y value in this, I couldn't understand how to get it.
Now, okay. Do you have the graph that I sent you on that illustration?
Yes, I have a graph I have drawn in my textbook, exercise book.
You have drawn the graph. Can you just check the one that I sent you? Because
in the graph, when I have drawn, the value of x is 0. The value of y become 45,000.
Yes.
Or the value of y 0 is the value of x, what it comes 45,000 divided by 52.86. We have to get the value, but my understanding is how to get in this question, how to get the value of y is 45,000 is, I couldn't understand.
Yes, and I'm telling you, the assumption is, the assumption is when the production is 0, you still have to incur the fixed cost. So at y is equals to 0, at x is equals to 0, at x is equals to 0, it means our total cost is equals to 0. I mean, not to 0, but to y, isn't it? Our total cost is equals to y. So our total cost is equals to y. When you read from the graph where the line cuts the y, that's the point we are reading the 45. And that means it's our fixed cost. That means that 45 is our fixed cost, because 45 plus 0, because any number multiplied by 0, right? X being 0, isn't it? Any number multiplied by 0 is 0. So 45 plus 0 is 45. So at that level, it means our total cost is equals to 45.
The production is 0, the total cost is 45,000, yeah.
Yes. So that 45,000 is now the fixed cost because we don't have any production. X is equals to 0. And X is equals to 0, there's no production. I don't know whether somebody else can also help us understand that.
I understand.
But, yes. When production is 0, and we're still incurring 45, then the 45 we are incurring it because it's fixed. It's not dependent on the production.
Okay.
Is that making sense?
Yeah. But it depends on production. When the production increases, the value of y is also become increase.
Yes, and v will have to also, v remains constant. V remains constant, but x is the one that changes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So when we substitute now from what we read in our table, in our graph, our y at where the line cuts, our y was 230,000, and our x was 3,500. So if our f is 45,000, then we can always get our v, and that's what we substituted to get our v as 52.86. Okay.
Okay.
Is that clear? Any other question? Any other question?
I have a question.
Yes, Mohammed. Yeah.
Not Mamar Gutu. Which one is more accurate from the high-low method and the scatter graph method? Which one do you prefer?
Now, we prefer this one. I would say I prefer this one because it's taking into consideration all the data points. It's taking into consideration all the data points. The weakness of the other one is only that it only looks at the high and the low, all right? But we are not saying that we cannot use high and low. You know, different organizations use different methods. That's why we have a number of them. So you select a method that is appropriate for you, all right? And also, depending on several factors, like what are you trying to cost, isn't it? If you are costing production, and in fact, you realize that the next method that you're going into will now be more accurate than this one you're looking at. Because this one, like the F, is just dependent on how you draw the graph, isn't it? The line, how you draw the line. And you remember, it's just visually, you are just visually fitting it. It's not based on any other mathematical approach. It's just visually. You mean what you see as out of the data points that you mentioned. Okay, so that's why I said every method has its strengths and weaknesses. So we are not ruling out that we cannot use this because it's less accurate than the other one. It all depends on what you're trying to cost and the purpose for which you are determining the equation. All right, and that's why we are calling it estimations. It's an estimated equation. Estimation. It's an estimation. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
will you have other simple methods? In this case, the production is tabulated monthly, and both the number of units and the total cost is tabulated monthly. If we tabulate it daily, it will be very cumbersome to develop such kind of equation. So for such huge and voluminous transactions, do you have other simplified method of equations, or how did you go through such kind of cases?
Okay, now the method you are going into, if you know how to use a regression model, it is very convenient, because these days now with the barcodes, you can just apply the regression equation and get the equation coming out directly. So as long as it gives you the dependent and the independent variable, then y being the dependent and the x being the independent variable, because y is dependent on x, then it means you can always formulate an equation if you use a regression model. It's very easy. In fact, you just use a computer or a laptop a software to get that, right? So that one is it has made work so easy for even managers, so long as you know how to use the regression model, which you are going to look at next. All right, the regression analysis. Is that okay?
Good.
Yeah, Nesfil Adare.
Yes, doctor.
Yes, welcome.
I have no question, doctor.
You have no question, okay.
Yes.
All right, so anybody else with a question? Can we continue then? Lusegid? Lusegid? Yes, yes.
On another graph method, we draw a line through the points, and then we get the equation. But I'm not still clear with the 45,000. I know it's the fixed cost at x equals to 0, but where did you get the number, the 45,000? Why don't we say 50,000 or 35,000, the fixed cost? Do we get it as a given, or where are we getting that 45,000? Why don't we say 17,000 or 5,000?
Okay, yes. Now, you see the plotted line, the line that you visually drew, is a straight line and is cutting y, not at 50. 50, the line cuts y below 50. You can see that. If you look at that table, that graph I gave you, the line is cutting the y-axis below 50. So you cannot say it's 50 because 50 is above that line where it's cutting y. So the 45 is estimated. It's an estimate of where the line is cutting. But if you had the clear units showing, numbers showing for every, then you'll realize that it's cutting either at 45 there or 46 there or somewhere there. But you can't say it's 50 because the line is cutting the y-axis at below 50.
Yeah, our graph.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, Solomon, you are saying something? Hello? Hello? Yeah,
Couldn't hear?
Yes, Solomon. Yes, Solomon. Yeah.
When our number is changed, or our number is changed, the graph also becomes change its plotted area. When the number is increased, our plotted area in the y-axis is increased. When the number is decreased, our plotting area of the graph also decrease the number. There is no differentiation. In the graph also have up and down. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that observation. Thank you for that observation. So you can attempt this with at your own free time with any data sets, and then you try to draw a graph and see where it comes, and then it's just learning, understanding the concept, and then you can always practice that at your own free time. This is what I'm trying to say. So I like that observation. So if you try to do at your own free time, you realize this behavior coming out precisely like this one. Any other question? Okay. Are you with me? Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes,
we
we
can
can
proceed. We can proceed to the last method. The last method is regression analysis. And regression analysis is similar to the scatter graph approach in that both feet are straight line to, both feet are straight line to a set of data points to estimate fixed and variable costs. It uses a series of mathematical equations to find the best possible fit of the line to the data points, and thus tends to provide more accurate results than the scatter graph approach. So rather than running these computations by hand, most companies use computer software such as Excel to perform regression analysis. From our above illustration, a regression analysis in Excel provides the following output. So you will see if you do this, if you code those this data, okay, this information into your, you also use SPSS and all that. You see this one, the units, this will be your X and this will be your Y. So Y is a dependent variable. Y is dependent, and then this one is independent, and of course the period also. So you will see now it will give you this y-intercept of this 43.276 and x variable as 53.42. So you just use this to formulate our equation. So that's the equation used to estimate total production cost is y is equals to 42.276 plus 53.42x. So this is just as simple as that. The computer has done all that you are doing in the scatter graph by itself. So long as you feed the right information into it, it will give you these variables. And then you can use these variables to come up with the equation, okay, to get your y. So your intercept is actually the constant in the normal regression line. So you have this, and then now the v is now the function of x. So you will have the equation as in this manner. So this is something that is done within the computer. So you just feed in the information and then let the computer run. Or you can use as simplest software, Excel, to give you that, and you're able to move forward.
Sir.
Any question? Yes.
Sir.
Yes.
Why is the y-intercept goes 43,000? Because the fixed cost is 45,000. The intercepts at 0 units should be 45,000. Why it goes 43,000?
Now this illustration has nothing to do with the first one, the scatter.
Oh no, okay. From scatter, it says from the illustration from our above illustration.
Yeah, I'm just using the same figures.
Oh.
The same figures are the ones that brought us this. You realize in the scatter graph, the scatter graph method, Celeste, I was saying, now the 43 is now the most accurate. That one is more accurate than 45. 45 was just by estimate. We are just visualizing and seeing where the line cuts. So the 45 was just an estimate. But this one is more accurate, isn't it? The 43 is more accurate. You can see it's even giving us the decimal points, all right? And then the variable cost, according to the scatter graph, our variable cost was 52.83. But you see here, it's giving us
Hello.
Did I answer your question? Hello. Celeste? Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody else with a question?
It was interrupted.
Yeah.
We were not hearing you.
Okay, I was saying, the last method, the regression analysis, the 43 that we have found for F is different from the 45 we found in the other method, but 43 is more accurate than the 45 because the same procedure has happened, only that this one was done by the computer and the other one was done by eyes, use of eyes. Okay, so which one is more accurate? The one that is using the computer, okay? Because it goes into the tiny details. That's why you can see it has also given us the decimal points, all right? And like the other one, we just estimated, we not give the decimal points. I think let's look at it as a method separate from the other one. But it's an improved method to the other one. Am I clear?
Yes, it seems.
Okay, so any other question? So if no question, now these are the 4 common methods used to estimate the cost equation of the cost function. Okay, so I'm saying these are the 4 methods that we are commonly used in estimating the cost function. And as I said from the beginning, the cost function is used to project. You can project if you want to change the level of production, then you can use that to estimate how much you plan to incur for increased level of production. So this function is very important, and it can also be used to budget for budgeting purposes, for setting the standards, standard costs, and all that. So, and even coming up with the policies that can guide your organization's operation. So who was talking? Let me say.
Yes, doctor.
Yes, tell us.
I'm not clear in the third part.
The
scatter graph.
The scatter graph.
Yeah. It is better to put all calculations in the PowerPoint.
I'm trying to explain his question. He's asking about the scatter graph. Now the scatter graph, those you basically plot. You plot those data points. You plot them. You get the data points in the graph. You get the data points in the graph. Like for example, if the total cost is 200 and the X, so the 200 you look at the Y-axis. The 200 you look at the Y-axis, and plot it against, get the data point against the x-axis, which is 2,900. So you do that, you check where they meet. That's where you put a point. And then you do for all of them, for all the activities, checking at the total cost against the units produced, so that you plot everything, you get the data points on the graph for every activity. Okay?
Okay.
Then after that, you plot a line, visually plot a line where there's a lot of concentration, of the points. So the line cutting through the concentration point, all right? And make sure you touch at least one. It cuts at least 1 point. So that 1 point is the one that you can use now to determine the rest of the variables. And where we are saying where the line cuts the y-axis, that will be your fixed cost.
Okay.
Yeah, is that clear? Any other questions? Other comments or questions? Please ask through the class president, or you can send directly to my email. I'm sure you have my email, so you can send directly to my email and then I'll respond. Otherwise, we can end our class there. Next week, we shall look at the costing of a unit, and then I had sent you the illustration, but I'll give you, I'll send you additional stuff for next week's discussion so that you get prepared before we meet. Otherwise, thanks for turning up and stay safe. See you next week.
ልዩነት መፍጠር ዓላማችን ነው። ዓለም አቀፍ ተወዳዳሪ መሆን አለባችሁ። የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ ጥራትና ደረጃውን የጠበቀ ስልጠና በመስጠት ብቁ ዜጋ እያፈራን ነው። በፍላይት ኦፕሬሽን፣ በበረራ መስተንግዶ፣ በቲኬቲንግና ሪዘርቬሽን፣ በሆቴልና ቱሪዝም ሙያዎች አሰልጥነን ተወዳዳሪ እናደርጉታለን። ኮሌጃችን ካናዳ ከሚገኘው ኢንተርናሽናል ኤር ትራንስፖርት አሶሲዬሽን አያታና ከእንግሊዙ አይሲኤም ጋር በመተባበር ዓለም አቀፍ ዕውቅና ያለው ስልጠና እየሰጠ ይገኛል። በፍላይት ኦፕሬሽን በበረራ መስተንግዶ የምንሰጣቸው ስልጠና ከኢትዮጵያ ሲቪል አቪዬሽን ባለስልጣን ሙሉ ዕውቅና አለው። አድራሻ ከጎላጉል ታወር 22 አደባባይ ወደ ሾላ በሚወስደው መንገድ ላይ የናሽናል ኤርዌይስ እህት ኩባንያ ናሽናል አቪዬሽን ኮሌጅ ህልሞን እውን ያደርጋል።